Jake Morrison adjusted his black diplomatic uniform one last time before stepping through the massive doors. The Galactic Council chamber stretched out before him like a dream. The walls were made of some kind of crystal that glowed with soft, blue light. Hundreds of alien beings sat in floating seats arranged in perfect circles around a central platform. This was it, the moment Earth had worked toward for 20 years. Jake took a deep breath and walked forward. His boots clicked on the smooth floor as he made his way to the speaking platform in the center of the chamber. Above him, the ceiling showed a perfect view of space with thousands of stars twinkling like diamonds. Jake had seen pictures of this place, but being here was something else. The air smelled strange, like flowers mixed with metal. Strange sounds came from the alien delegates as they talked among themselves. Jake reached the platform and looked around. In the first ring of seats, he could see the most important members of the council. There was Vextar, the Zalarian Prime Minister. His skin was gray and smooth like stone, and his eyes were completely black. Next to him sat Quinza, an Etherian counselor who looked like she was made of living crystal. Her body caught the light and threw rainbow colors around her seat. On the other side was Zelthra, the Hive Queen. She looked like a giant insect with 4 arms and wings that moved slowly behind her back. Her compound eyes watched Jake without blinking. There were dozens of other alien species he had studied but never seen in person. A deep voice filled the chamber. The council recognizes the representative from the planet Earth. You may present your species for consideration. Jake straightened his shoulders and began to speak. His voice carried clearly through the massive room. Honored members of the Galactic Council, I am Commander Jake Morrison, speaking for the United Earth Government. We come before you in peace, seeking membership in this great community of worlds. He activated his holographic display. Images of Earth appeared in the air above him. Blue oceans, green forests, and white clouds rotating slowly. Earth is home to over 8 billion humans. We have achieved faster-than-light travel and wish to share our knowledge and culture with the galaxy. Some of the aliens leaned forward with mild interest. Jake continued, We offer our friendship and our skills. Humans are known for our creativity, our determination, and our ability to solve problems in new ways. The display changed to show human cities, art, and music. Then it showed human technology, spacecraft, weapons, and defensive systems. Jake felt proud as he watched the images. Humanity had come so far in such a short time. We have strong defensive capabilities, Jake said. Our military uses advanced kinetic weapons, guided missiles, and energy shields. We have developed new ways to fight that have served us well in protecting our world. That was when the laughter started. It began as a soft chuckling from somewhere in the upper seats. Then more voices joined in. Soon the entire chamber was filled with the sound of aliens laughing. Not friendly laughter, but the kind that made Jake's face turn red with shame. Vextar stood up from his seat. His black eyes looked down at Jake with clear amusement. Kinetic weapons? He said, his voice carrying easily through the chamber. Did he just say kinetic weapons? What is this, a museum presentation about primitive warfare? More laughter erupted. Quinza's crystal body rang like a bell as she laughed. Her musical voice added to the noise. Oh my, they still use chemical propulsion. How charming. It is like watching children play with toys. Zelthra's insect voice clicked and buzzed as she joined in. Guided missiles. Oh, the innocents. They think pointing exploding sticks at things counts as military technology. Jake felt his anger rising, but he kept his face calm. He had expected this reaction. Earth's leaders had warned him it might happen. Still, hearing it in person was worse than he had imagined. Vextar gestured with one gray hand toward Jake. Tell me, little human, do you also bring us fire and the wheel? Perhaps you have discovered agriculture. We are so eager to learn from your advanced civilization. The chamber exploded with laughter again. Jake waited for it to die down, then spoke clearly. We may be new to galactic society, but humans have survived and thrived through many challenges. We believe we can contribute to the Council's goals of peace and cooperation. Peace and cooperation. Zelthra's wing buzzing got louder. With what? Your fire sticks and chemical rockets? Oh, this is rich. The soft little mammals think they can play with the big species. Quinza stood up, her crystal body casting light patterns on the walls. Their tactical thinking is so linear, so predictable. They point weapons at targets and hope for the best. There is no elegance, no sophistication. It is like watching cave dwellers try to explain mathematics. Jake tried one more time. Humans have a saying. It is not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. We may not have your advanced technology, but we have something else. We have heart. We have the will to survive and protect what we love. The laughter got even louder. Vextar was wiping his black eyes. Oh, that is precious. They have heart. Did you hear that, council members? The humans have heart. I am sure that will be very useful when facing plasma cannons and quantum disruptors. Another alien Jake did not recognize stood up. This one looked like a walking tree with glowing fruits for eyes. Perhaps we should give them a participation trophy. Congratulations for trying. We could hang it next to their chemical rockets. In the primitive technology display, the entire chamber was in chaos now. Aliens were laughing, pointing, and making jokes in languages Jake could not understand. He stood on the platform, surrounded by the mockery of hundreds of advanced beings. Finally, Vextar called for order. The laughter slowly died down, though. Jake could still hear chuckling from various parts of the chamber. The Zalarian Prime Minister looked down at Jake with something that might have been pity. Very well, little human. The Council has heard your presentation. We will now vote on Earth status. The voting took less than 5 minutes. Jake watched as lights appeared next to each delegate's seat. Red meant no, green meant yes. Jake counted the lights as they appeared. Red, red, red. A few yellows for abstain, 1 or 2 greens scattered here and there. The vote is complete, Vextar announced. Earth is granted provisional observer status. You may watch our proceedings and learn, but you have no voice in council decisions. Perhaps in a few hundred years, when you have developed beyond fire sticks and chemical propulsion, we can revisit this decision. Jake nodded stiffly. Thank you for your consideration. Oh, do not thank us yet, Zelthra called out. Observer. Status means you get to watch real civilizations work. Try to learn something useful. The chamber erupted in final laughter as Jake turned and walked back toward the exit. Each step felt heavier than the last. Behind him, he could hear the aliens already moving on to other business, dismissing Earth as easily as swatting a fly. Jake reached the door and stepped through into the corridor beyond. The laughter faded behind him as the massive doors closed. He was alone now, standing in a hallway that stretched for miles in both directions. He pulled out his communication device and sent a message back to Earth. Mission complete. Status granted provisional observer only. Reaction as expected. Returning home. Jake Morrison walked down the long corridor toward his ship, already planning what he would tell President Harper and the Defense Council. The galaxy had made its position clear. Earth was nothing more than an amusing curiosity, a primitive world playing at being civilized. They had no idea what was coming. 3 months had passed since Jake Morrison returned from the Galactic Council. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains in Colorado, General Amy Foster walked through corridors that did not exist on any official map. The walls were smooth metal, lit by soft white lights that followed her as she moved. She stopped at a door marked only with numbers. Her hand pressed against a scanner, and the door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, Dr. Ryan Clark was waiting for her. The laboratory behind him was filled with equipment that looked nothing like what the aliens had seen in Jake's presentation. Are we ready? Amy asked. Ryan nodded and gestured for her to follow him. They walked past tables covered with devices that hummed with quiet energy. Strange blue lights danced inside glass tubes. Screens showed complex equations that would have made alien scientists pause and think. The council members were right about one thing, Ryan said as they walked. Our kinetic weapons and chemical rockets are primitive, but they made a mistake thinking that was all we had. They entered a larger room where a dozen military officers sat around a table. Amy recognized most of them. These were the people who had been working on Project Lazarus for the past 10 years. They had been preparing for this day long before Jake ever set foot in the Galactic Council chamber. "Gentlemen, ladies," Amy said as she took her seat. "You all know why we are here. The galaxy thinks we are children playing with toys. It is time to show them what human children can really do when they put their minds to it." Captain Steve Baker stood up first. He was a tall man with gray hair and sharp eyes. Behind him, a holographic display showed a ship unlike anything the aliens had seen. It looked almost like a shadow, dark and hard to focus on. "The Silent Thunder is ready for deployment," Steve said. "Our new stealth technology does not just bend light like alien cloaking systems. We shift the entire ship between dimensional layers. To their sensors, we simply do not exist in their reality." Dr. Clark activated another display. This one showed the inner workings of the stealth system. The aliens use electromagnetic manipulation for stealth. They hide from radar and optical sensors, but our phase shift technology moves matter itself. We exist in the same space but in a slightly different dimension. Their sensors cannot find what is not technically there. Lieutenant Nina Powell stepped forward next. She was wearing a black suit that seemed to move and shift like liquid metal. When she moved, she was faster than human eyes could easily follow. The suit enhanced every part of her body and mind. "The Reaper program has produced 47 operational soldiers," Nina said. Her voice was calm, but there was something different about her now. Something that had not been there before the suit. "Neural interface technology allows us to process information at superhuman speeds. We can coordinate attacks across multiple targets while analyzing enemy responses in real time." Amy watched as Nina demonstrated. The young woman moved across the room in a blur, touching objects and returning to her position before most people could blink. The suit made her more than human, but she was still human inside. "How fast?" Amy asked. "We can react to threats in less than 50 milliseconds, Nina replied. "Human reaction time is normally around 200 milliseconds. The aliens we have studied average between 100 and 300 milliseconds, depending on their biology. We will see their attacks coming before they finish making the decision to attack." Another officer stood up. This was Sergeant Tony Adams, a man who had spent the last 6 months in space without anyone knowing he was gone. His weathered face showed the effects of long missions in hostile environments. "Our reconnaissance teams have been mapping alien infrastructure for 8 months, Tony said. "We have detailed information on their military bases, communication networks, and supply lines. They do not know we exist, so they have never tried to hide from us." The display showed star charts with thousands of marked locations, red dots for military installations, blue for communication hubs, yellow for supply depots. The aliens had built their empire assuming no one could reach them without being detected. "Every major power in the galaxy is mapped and analyzed," Tony continued. "We know their weapons, their tactics, and their weaknesses. Most importantly, we know how they think. They believe in overwhelming technological superiority. They do not plan for enemies who think differently than they do." Dr. Clark stood up again and activated a new set of displays. These showed weapons that looked more like art than instruments of war. Smooth curves and elegant lines that seemed to bend space around them. "Quantum disruption fields can disable any technology based on normal matter interaction," he explained. "Their ships, weapons, and shields all depend on predictable physical laws. Our disruptors change those laws in localized areas. Their equipment simply stops working." "And the dimensional missiles?" Amy asked. Ryan smiled for the first time that day. "Those are special. They phase through normal matter, including shields and armor. They only become solid again when they reach their programmed destination, usually inside the target." Captain Baker activated another display showing a fleet of ships that looked like they were made of darkness itself. "We have 37 stealth dreadnoughts ready for deployment. Each one carries enough firepower to destroy a small moon. But more importantly, they can appear anywhere without warning." Amy looked around the table at these men and women who had been working in secret while the galaxy laughed at humanity. They had taken the mockery and turned it into motivation. While aliens saw primitive weapons, humans had been developing technologies that operated on completely different principles. "What about the psychological aspect?" Amy asked. Nina answered this time. Humans learned warfare differently than other species. We faced extinction multiple times in our history. We learned that survival sometimes requires doing things others think are impossible. The aliens have been so dominant for so long that they have forgotten what it feels like to face a real threat. Tony nodded. Their military doctrine is based on gradual escalation. They show force, negotiate, show more force, negotiate again. They expect enemies to surrender when faced with superior technology. They have never fought anyone who would rather die than give up. Dr. Clark brought up a final display. This one showed Earth, but not as the aliens had seen it. Hidden bases, concealed weapon platforms, and defense networks that stretched throughout the solar system. Earth looked peaceful from space, but it was actually the most heavily fortified planet in known space. We let them see what they expected to see, Ryan said. Chemical rockets and kinetic weapons, simple defensive systems. They saw a primitive world because that is what they were looking for. They never imagined we might be hiding our real capabilities. Amy stood up and looked at each person in the room. These were the people who would determine humanity's future in the galaxy. Not diplomats or politicians, but soldiers and scientists who understood that sometimes the only way to earn respect was to demonstrate strength. The aliens made one critical error, Amy said quietly. They assumed that less advanced means less dangerous. They forgot that the most dangerous animals are often the ones that look harmless until they strike. She walked to the window that showed the hidden hangar beyond. Dozens of sleek, dark ships waited in silence. They looked nothing like the clumsy rockets the aliens had mocked. These were predators built by a species that had learned to hunt in the shadows. Project Lazarus is now operational, Amy announced. We are no longer the primitive species that begged for acceptance at the Galactic Council. We are ready to show the galaxy what humans can do when we stop playing by their rules. The room was quiet for a moment. Then Captain Baker spoke. What are our orders, General? Amy smiled, and it was not a friendly expression. We wait. The galaxy thinks we are harmless. Let them keep thinking that until it is time to show them the truth. When that time comes, we will not be asking for their respect. We will be taking it. 6 months had passed since Jake's humiliation at the Galactic Council, when the first reports of war reached Earth. The galaxy was burning, and the great powers were tearing each other apart over resources they all desperately needed. Admiral, Beth Rogers stood on the bridge of Liberty 1, Earth's largest orbital station. Through the massive windows she could see Earth spinning slowly below, blue and peaceful. It looked nothing like the war zones that now filled the galaxy. Reports came in every day of entire star systems being destroyed in the fighting. The door to the bridge opened, and her aide entered. Admiral, the alien ambassadors have arrived. They are waiting in Conference Room Alpha. Beth nodded and straightened her uniform. She had been expecting this visit for weeks. When civilizations went to war, they always needed more resources, more soldiers, more support. Earth looked like an easy target for recruitment. She walked through the corridors of Liberty 1, passing windows that showed the hidden defense platforms floating in Earth's shadow. The aliens would never see those platforms. Their sensors would show them only the few obvious stations that Earth wanted them to see. Conference Room Alpha was designed to impress visitors. The walls showed a live view of space, making it seem like they were floating among the stars. Beth entered to find 2 aliens waiting for her. She recognized them both from the intelligence files her staff had prepared. War Marshal Kethrix represented the Zalarian Empire. He was taller than his predecessor Vextar, with the same gray skin and black eyes, but his body was covered with scars from recent battles. His uniform was dark red with gold markings that showed his military rank. Across from him sat Combat Node Prime Luxara of the Etherian Collective. Her crystal body was different from Quinza's. Where the counselor had been smooth and elegant, this one was sharp and angular. Her surface was covered with weapon ports and sensor arrays. She was built for war, not diplomacy. Admiral Rogers, Kethrix said as she entered. His voice was rough, like rocks grinding together. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. Beth took her seat at the head of the table. War Marshal, Combat Node. I understand you have proposals for Earth's consideration. Kethrix leaned forward. his black eyes fixed on Beth's face. The Zalarian Empire is fighting for the future of galactic civilization. We require additional resources to continue our righteous campaign against the crystal parasites. Luxara's body flashed with angry light. Parasites? Your species has been strip mining peaceful worlds for centuries. The collective seeks only to restore balance to the galaxy. Balance? Kethrix laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. You want to turn every thinking being into part of your hive mind? That is not balance. That is extinction. Beth watched the two aliens argue. Their hatred for each other was obvious, but she noticed something else. Both of them looked at her with the same expression of casual superiority. Even in the middle of a war, they still saw humans as nothing more than useful tools. What exactly are you asking of Earth? Beth said, cutting through their argument. Kethrix turned back to her. The Empire requires raw materials, manufactured goods, and workers. Earth has large populations that are currently unused in the galactic economy. We can put them to productive use in our mining operations and manufacturing facilities. Upar. Mean slaves, Beth said quietly. We prefer the term productive contributor, Kethrix replied. Your people would be well treated and fed. Many primitive species have found great satisfaction in supporting the Empire's goals. Luxara's crystal body chimed like broken glass. The collective offers a better path. We can incorporate willing human minds into our network. Your people would become part of something greater than themselves. They would know perfect unity and purpose. You mean absorbed into your hive mind? Beth said. Enhanced, Luxara corrected. Individual consciousness is wasteful and chaotic. We offer evolution beyond the limitations of single minds. Beth sat back in her chair and looked at both aliens. And if Earth refuses both offers? The room was quiet for a moment. Then Kethrix smiled, showing teeth like broken stone. That would be unfortunate. The galaxy is at war, Admiral. There is no room for neutrality. Species that refuse to choose a side often find themselves caught in the crossfire. How tragic when that happens, Luxara added, her voice like singing crystal. Especially to worlds with limited defensive capabilities. Chemical rockets and kinetic weapons provide so little protection against modern military forces. Beth felt a familiar anger building in her chest. It was the same dismissive arrogance that had filled the Galactic Council chamber 6 months ago. These beings were so convinced of their superiority that they could not imagine Earth might have other options. You are threatening Earth, Beth said. It was not a question. Kethrix spread his hands in a gesture that might have been meant to look reasonable. I am simply explaining the reality of the situation. The combined fleets of the Empire and the collective will arrive at Earth in 2 weeks. At that time, we will collect what we need for our war effort. It would be easier for everyone if Earth chose to cooperate. Much easier, Luxara agreed. Resistance would be tragically pointless. Your species has shown creativity and determination. But those qualities cannot overcome the basic facts of military power. Beth stood up slowly. Both aliens watched her with expressions of patient superiority. They had delivered their ultimatum and expected her to accept reality like any sensible primitive would. 2 weeks, Beth said. 2 weeks, Kethrix confirmed. I suggest you use that time to prepare your people for their new roles in the galactic community. The Empire values efficiency. Cooperation will make the transition much smoother. The collective also values smooth transitions, Luxara added. We have extensive experience in integrating new populations. Your people will find the process far less traumatic if they do not resist. Beth walked to the window and looked out at Earth. Her home world looked so peaceful from up here. Blue oceans, white clouds, green and brown continents. It was hard to believe that in 2 weeks, the largest military force in galactic history would arrive to claim it. Is there anything else, you? She asked without turning around. Just one thing, Kethrix said. Do not attempt to contact other galactic powers for help. They are all busy with their own survival. Besides, no one would risk their fleets to defend a world with such limited strategic value. Your species has potential, Luxara said. But potential must be guided by wisdom. Accept what cannot be changed, and your people will find their place in the greater galaxy. Beth turned back to face them. Both aliens were standing now, ready to leave. They looked satisfied with their work. Another primitive world had been given the choice between slavery and absorption. In their experience, primitives always chose slavery. "I will convey your offers to my government," Beth said. "Excellent," Ketherick said. "We look forward to working with Earth in the coming years." "As do we," Luxara added. "The galaxy will be a better place when this war is over and proper order is restored." The two aliens left the conference room, their footsteps echoing in the corridors of Liberty One. Beth watched them go, then activated her communication system. "This is Admiral Rogers to all Earth Defense Command stations. Authorization code, Alpha 77. Implement Project Lazarus protocols immediately, all units to full readiness. Time to deployment, 14 days. The response came back within minutes from stations across the solar system and beyond. Captain Baker reported from the Silent Thunder. Lieutenant Powell confirmed Reaper team readiness. Dr. Clark sent updates from weapon systems that the aliens had never imagined could exist. Beth looked out at Earth one more time. In 2 weeks, the galaxy would learn that humans had been listening very carefully during that first meeting at the Galactic Council. They had learned that the galaxy respected only strength, and that mercy was seen as weakness. The aliens were right about one thing. There was no room for neutrality in this war. But they had made a critical error in assuming that Earth would choose between slavery and absorption. Earth was about to choose a third option, one that the galaxy had never seen before. Beth smiled as she watched her homeworld turn in the darkness of space. "Let them come," she whispered. "Let them all come." The combined alien armada emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, exactly 2 weeks after the meeting on Liberty One. War Marshal Ketherix stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Devastator, watching his sensors count the enemy fleet. 312 vessels from both the Zalarian Empire and Etherian Collective floated in perfect formation. "Impressive," Combat Node Prime Luxara said through the communication link. Her crystal voice carried clearly across the void between their ships. "The humans have assembled quite a collection of space debris." Ketherix looked at his tactical display. The screen showed empty space where Earth's defensive fleet should have been. No battleships, no weapons platforms, no desperate formations trying to protect their homeworld. Just a few commercial stations orbiting the blue planet like forgotten toys. "Perhaps they evacuated," suggested Commander Zektol, Ketherix's second-in-command. "Some primitive species abandon their worlds when faced with superior force." "No," Ketherix said, studying the sensor readings. "There are still billions of life signs on the planet. They are all still there, waiting for us." He paused, then laughed. "Or maybe they think their chemical rockets are hidden somewhere, planning a surprise attack." The alien fleet moved deeper into the solar system. Their sensors swept space continuously, looking for any sign of human military forces. They found nothing except a few mining stations around the asteroid belt and some research platforms near Jupiter. "This is almost disappointing," Luxara transmitted. "I expected at least token resistance. Perhaps a few brave souls and outdated fighters making heroic gestures before being destroyed." "Patience," Ketherix replied. "We will give them a chance to surrender before we take what we need. Even primitives deserve the opportunity to choose cooperation over destruction." The first sign that something was wrong came when the alien ships began losing power. It started with a few vessels in the outer formations. Their engines simply stopped working. Then their weapons went offline. Within minutes, entire sections of the fleet were drifting helplessly through space. "Report!" Ketherix shouted to his crew. Around him, alien technicians worked frantically at control panels that were flashing with error messages. "Unknown energy interference," his chief engineer reported. "All primary systems are failing. It is like our technology is forgetting how to work." Similar reports came in from across the fleet. Ships that had conquered 100 worlds were suddenly as helpless as floating rocks. Their computers crashed and restarted in endless loops. Their weapons refused to fire, Their shields flickered and died. Impossible, Luxara's voice crackled through the communication system. Our technology is advanced beyond anything these primitives could understand. How are they doing this? The answer came when the human ships appeared. They materialized out of nothing, as if space itself was giving birth to monsters. Sleek, dark vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The Silent Thunder and her sister ships took shape within the alien formation, their weapons already charging. Captain Steve Baker stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the alien fleet struggle with systems that no longer obeyed their commands. All units, this is Silent Thunder. Execute attack pattern Delta. Show them what human engineering can really do. The human dreadnoughts opened fire with weapons the aliens had never seen before. Gravitational cannons tore through alien hulls, like they were made of paper. The heavy armor that had protected Zalarian warships for centuries crumpled and twisted under forces that bent space itself. Dimensional missiles phased through alien shields as if they did not exist. The projectiles passed through solid matter, through armor, through bulkheads until they reached the exact center of their targets. Then they became solid again and exploded inside the enemy ships. War Marshal Kethrix watched in horror as his flagship sister ship, the Conqueror, simply folded in on itself. The massive vessel compressed into a ball of twisted metal in less than 10 seconds. There was no time for the crew to escape, no time even to scream. "Evasive maneuvers," he ordered, but his ship barely responded. The quantum disruptors had crippled most of his systems. The Devastator moved like a wounded animal, slow and clumsy. That was when the Reapers struck. Lieutenant Nina Powell and her enhanced soldiers had been launched from cloaked insertion pods hours before the battle began. Now they moved through the alien flagships like deadly shadows. Their neural interface suits let them process information faster than alien minds could follow. Nina appeared on the bridge of Luxara's command ship, the Unity Prime. Her black suit made her almost invisible in the dim crystal lighting. The first alien guard died before he could raise his weapon. The second managed to fire one shot that passed harmlessly through empty air where Nina had been a fraction of a second before. "Impossible," Luxara said, her crystal body flashing, with alarm signals. "Nothing organic can move that fast," Nina smiled inside her helmet. "You never asked what we could do when we stopped being just organic." The Reaper moved across the bridge in a blur of motion. Alien crew members fell unconscious as she touched them with neural disruptors. In less than 30 seconds, she had complete control of the Etherean flagship. Similar scenes played out across the alien fleet. Reaper teams coordinated their attacks with inhuman precision, capturing bridge after bridge while the alien crews struggled to understand what was happening. Back on the Devastator, Kethrix watched his fleet die around him. Hundreds of ships that had seemed unstoppable just minutes before were now burning wrecks or captured prizes. The humans moved through his formations like predators through a herd of prey. "How?" he whispered. "How is this possible?" Dr. Ryan Clark's voice answered him from the Silent Thunder's communication system. "You made the same mistake everyone makes when they see something they do not understand. You assumed it was simple instead of different." The human scientist appeared on Kethrix's main screen. Behind him, the War Marshal could see the bridge of a human warship filled with technology that looked like magic. "You saw kinetic weapons and chemical rockets because that is what we wanted you to see. While you were laughing at our primitive technology, we were developing weapons based on principles your scientists never imagined." "This is not possible," Kethrix said. "We are the advanced species. We have conquered the galaxy. You conquered species that thought like you," Ryan replied. "Beings who believed that bigger weapons and stronger shields were the only path to victory. You never fought anyone who learned warfare in the shadow of extinction." Captain Baker's voice joined the conversation. "Humans spent thousands of years fighting each other with whatever weapons we could build. We learned to win battles with inferior technology by using superior tactics. We learned to survive by thinking differently than our enemies. The battle was over in 6 hours. The largest military force in galactic history had been destroyed or captured by a fleet that had appeared from nowhere. War Marshal Kethrix and Combat Node Prime Luxara found themselves prisoners aboard human vessels, their unshakable confidence shattered like glass. 3 days later, Jake Morrison stood once again before the Galactic Council. But this time, the chamber was silent. The alien delegates sat in their floating seats like statues, afraid to move or speak. The laughter was gone, replaced by something humans had never seen in alien eyes before: fear. Admiral Beth Rogers stood beside Jake, her uniform bearing new decorations that marked her as the commander who had broken the greatest fleet in galactic history. Behind them, holographic displays showed footage of the battle, played in slow motion so the council could see exactly how their invincible armadas had been destroyed. "The United Earth government has a message for the Galactic Council," Jake said. His voice carried clearly through the silent chamber. "We sought friendship, and were met with contempt. We offered cooperation and were threatened with slavery." He gestured to the images playing behind him. Ships folding in on themselves under gravitational assault. Reaper soldiers moving through alien bridges faster than eyes could follow. The proud flags of galactic empires burning in the void. "Consider this demonstration a lesson," Jake continued. "Never underestimate a species that learned warfare in the shadow of extinction. We have no interest in conquest or domination, but we will respond to any future threats with overwhelming force." President Lisa Harper's image appeared on the chamber's main screen. Her voice was calm, but every alien in the room could hear the steel beneath her words. "The galaxy is entering a new era," she said. "Humanity will serve as guardians of peace, protectors of the weak, and defenders against those who would abuse their power. We ask nothing more than to be left alone to pursue our own destiny among the stars." She paused, looking directly into the camera. Every alien watching knew she was speaking to them personally. "But if anyone threatens Earth or her allies again, they will learn why you should never corner a species that has nothing left to lose." The transmission ended, leaving the Galactic Council in absolute silence. The beings who had once mocked humanity's primitive weapons now understood the truth. Earth had become the most dangerous power in the galaxy, not despite their primitive origins, but because of them. The age of human dominance had begun, born from the ashes of alien arrogance and the fires of human determination. The galaxy would never underestimate the species from the small blue world again.